It is that time of the week for us anyway. It'll be that time of the week for you tomorrow when this episode drops. Welcome to the Knighted Ones podcast. This is episode number 8. So we've already done this for 8 weeks. It's kind of crazy. You guys have come along the ride with us. Thank you to everyone that's followed, subscribed, commented, liked. We love it all. This is for you. So please continue to do that. As a reminder, we are the only podcast that features a former UCF National Champion, a former UCF radio host, and several podcasters shooting the breeze, talking UCF sports. Who knows what we'll talk about? Last week was kind of off the rails, but we enjoyed it. A lot of yelling for obvious reasons. And, I think we all needed the bye week. So, let me go ahead and bring the rest of the team in. So starting off first, let's bring in Josh Lazar. Hey, Josh.
Now I get to go first. I like this. Hi, everyone.
I can take you back out. Hold on. All right. So Alan Levin, I'm going to bring you back in. See what happens when you kind of like make a snide remark. I have the control, people. Hey. So Alan Levin, welcome back to the show. He's a little under the weather, folks, but he's a trooper for joining.
How's it going, guys?
It's going great. I'm going to go ahead and bring in Trey Neal next. We'll leave Josh for last after that comment. All right. Trey Neal, welcome to the show, man. Going 1-0 against the bye week.
What's up? Hey, we got to get a win somehow.
Yeah. People resonated with that defensive commentary we had going last week. Even Gus actually took some time out and said, yeah, we kind of sucked. We saw a lot of things. So in his presser today. So excited to hear that. And first, but then last but not least, Josh Lazar. Welcome back to the show, Josh.
If you understand why you're not getting more YouTube shorts, it's because of that.
Oh, see that? I give up a segment to you. And, Alan ruined it last week with his lack of talking about upcoming soccer and everything else, but that's okay. We're learning on the job, guys. We're adjusting.
It's all good.
I am working on getting a green screen that has been heard loud and clear. So I will do that as soon as I possibly can, so that you get all of that great hair in a great experience. So, guys, it was the bye week. It was a exciting bye week for me anyway, because I got to watch everybody else's football games, which, every once in a while, it's nice to be able to do that when you don't have to worry or be upset if you lose a football game and it ruins the rest of your experience or anything like that. We had some other fourth quarter faux pas this week. Colorado gave us an interesting one. And so did.
I was up till 2 a.m. on that. Yeah.
That was a crazy game. And then Boise managed to do it as well. They gave up 17 points or 21 points in 6 minutes or something crazy in the fourth quarter. It's like, I don't know what's happening to college football right now, but it's absolutely nuts. Houston, we were making fun of them. And they got their dub before we got our dub against West Virginia in that crazy Hail Mary moment there at the end. It was an interesting yet entertaining week of college football. And the most exciting thing for me is I actually give a hoot, since we're a clean show, as a reminder, about the other Big 12 games. So watching the other Big 12 games was interesting. K-State, man, they've got their quarterback for the future. That was interesting to watch. He's like a bigger JRP. So that was interesting. Texas Tech or Tortilla Tech, however you want to, the bell ringers, whatever you want to call them, upcoming opponent. They were actually pretty interesting to watch. They're on their third string quarterback right now. And he started off strong, which if you watch the game, his last name's Strong. So, but yeah, totally fell apart, like 3 interceptions. So hopefully, don't wish injury on anyone, but hopefully we get him when we play Texas Tech later in the season. So, all right, guys, this week though, as promised, we're going to start with a highlight on our good friend Trey Neal. And since we didn't have a game this week, instead of doing a recap of a game, we're going to do a recap of Trey's career. So Trey's going to do a lot of talking this week. Let's go ahead and put him center stage. We're going to cover everything. Trey's career is very unique in the sense that he played for George Oleary. He was on and we make fun of this all the time, he was on a team that lost every game that they played. Then he went and he was on the team that won every game that they played. And then he went to Nebraska. So it was an interesting career for Trey, a lot of highlights. But for us, I think there's a lot there, a lot of teeth in that journey, just talking about what it was like under George Oleary, what his to Frost, what his experiences were. As far as a player in some of these adverse situations, like when you're an 0-12 team, like how do you turn it around? Like how do you get in your head? Like how do you fix that? Right. You know, and then transitioning a little bit into the rest of his career and some inside information. We'll talk about the White Horse. We'll talk about, you know, any kind of insider stories. He's now far enough from his UCF career that he can start sharing some things, but not everything, because that belongs in the text thread. So Trey, I am going to pop you over onto the screen. For our listeners, maybe some of those young bucks, we've got a pretty wide variety as far as our demographics are concerned that are not familiar with you. Why don't you tell everybody, you know, where you came from, how you were recruited, and what that experience was like with George Oleary.
Yeah, I mean, I played at Beaufort High School, which is it's a powerhouse in Gwinnett County, Georgia. I think we just played on ESPN this past Friday. So if that goes to tell you what kind of school we are, that's the kind of football school that I came from. Had a good amount of offers. I wouldn't say I was the most highly recruited guy in the country, but I mean, I had a good picking of where to go. And again, I chose UCF because I wanted to grow just as a young man. I'd always been in Georgia my whole life, never really left the not just the country, but really the state, except really just to go visit my family in North Carolina. That was pretty much it. So yeah, I wanted to just grow up, move 8 hours away to where, you know, if I had a problem, I couldn't just call my mom or dad and be like, hey, can you come help me out with this situation? You know, I had to figure it out. Yeah, I had to figure it out on my own. So, yeah, that was pretty much just my high school career. Won 3 championships in high school and then came to UCF after the Fiesta Bowl year. So we like to call ourselves the crown jewel class. You know, we were the ones that came.
Oh, wow. No hubris there at all.
No, I mean, it was just in the sense that was the Fiesta Bowl year. That was like the year where UCF was like, this is the new upcoming awesome school that just made this awesome. They had an amazing season, beat Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl. Followed up with, you know, Blake Bortles getting drafted 3 overall. You know, we were that class that was like, okay, these guys are pretty good, and Orlando's a pretty cool place. So let's go give it a shot. And I mean, there were guys recruiting a lot of those guys early, like Wyatt Miller, Chavis, Dickey. Those guys were recruiting a lot of us guys that signed late and committed later in the year. They recruited us hard, man. Guys like Jemias Pittman, Chris Williams, Kyle Gibson. Those guys were recruiting us hard. So we call ourselves the ground jewel because, again, we feel like we were the best class to come through. I mean, you know, at the time we definitely were. But, you know, as the years go, guys start getting better and better.
Well, and the program grows. But let's ask a couple of questions just to detail it out. What were the big name programs that were recruiting you?
So I mean, a lot. Just my final 3 were UCF, Vanderbilt, and Georgia Tech. I mean, I had guys like UNC, Stanford, offers like that. North Carolina.
Well, let's pause there just so you guys understand. I know Trey doesn't really talk about this, but Trey's actually a pretty cerebral guy, right? So the fact that Stanford, no, you don't have to try. You are. I mean, let's be real about it, right? You're a smart guy. I mean, when you you mentioned Stanford. You still have to have the grades to get into Stanford. It's not just all about the football play. Same way with Georgia Tech. Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those are all big academic schools.
Yeah. But I also, I have like some of the older, Kansas State, West Virginia. Again, I wasn't the big
West Virginia doesn't count academically because they're way down there.
But I wouldn't say I was the big SEC, got all the SEC offers. I wasn't that guy. I was a younger guy, very raw in my development. But I had a lot of talent, and again, I thought I was a pretty smart player, but a lot of technique issues. I will definitely admit to that coming out.
So let me ask you, as you were being recruited by George Oleary, he had a different way of recruiting because of the school that we were at, right? So this isn't a school where he accepted commitments early. He said basically only commit when you're ready to commit. And because we were so used to being picked off.
A little bit. We can get into it.
Yeah. So, we were used to being picked off, because we weren't Power 5 at the time. You know what I mean? And we were coming up, but we were on the come up, but we weren't there yet, right? So speak a little bit about how that recruitment was different, and did what did George, say to you? How much interaction did you have with him? Did he give you the speech of, hey, if you're ready to come, you're ready to come? Yeah. What made the difference with George Oleary and how some of the other recruiters were recruiting you?
Yeah, so Coach Oleary didn't directly recruit me throughout my whole recruiting time, even though that's what the assistants are for and some of the other guys. So my main recruiters were Coach Key, Coach Callahan, and Coach Becton. Pretty much Coach Beck and Coach Callahan, just because
I want Coach Beck back. I'm just going to put it out there. A wide receiver coach. That man, he's
UCF legend,
NFL talent up and down, up and down from his coaching tree. So I know he had a wayward moment there at Nebraska, but that man is talented. Loves UCF.
Yeah.
And I can't blame him for leaving. He was getting a lot of money thrown at him. Yeah. And he wasn't getting promoted at UCF. So unfortunately, not because of lack of talent, but just simply because
that's how the coaching
head coaching is. Yep.
That's how coaching goes.
So go ahead.
So those were the guys that recruited me. Coach Beck and Coach Callahan were the ones that were close. I still talk to Coach Beck, at least once a month. I try to talk to him. That's our relationship. He recruited me since I was 16. I'm 27 now. So we have a 10, 11-year relationship going on.
But serious. You going to put a ring on it? Oh, wait, you did that in 2017. Oh,
sorry. But yeah, they sold me. I think what I liked the most about them was they told me the truth. I'm a very, I like to joke around a lot, but when it comes to like my career at the time, what I wanted to do with my life, I wanted to be told the truth. They were one of the schools that said, hey, listen, you're not coming in. You're not going to start year one. Not because you can't, but because of what we already have. And again, I was behind guys like Clayton Gathers, NFL guy, Brandon Alexander. He had a little brief stint in NFL, and he's a big CFL guy now. Like, those are the guys I was behind.
Brandon Alexander was very talented.
Yeah. So, that kind of upfrontness versus other schools like, yeah, you can come in and start as a freshman. And again, I'm not an idiot. At least I try not to be one. So I would look, and there's guys who were like, these are freshmen, sophomores who are playing very well, then they have another year. So I'm like, there's no point to lie. And it wasn't that I didn't believe in my talents, but it was, I wanted that being upfront, and I think that's what, Coach Oleary definitely told me, and Coach Beck and Coach Callahan definitely sold me on that. But they definitely said, listen, you're a talented guy. One thing, and the thing that they won my parents over, and my mom specifically, was that, like, he's going to graduate. We're going to make sure he gets his degree. So, that was the icing on the cake for my mom. That's all she really cares about is, make sure.
Well, we all know it's all about the mamas in recruiting.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. So, I got the speech from Coach Oleary. But the thing about mine that was different was I was the last one to go in the office on Sunday. We come in on Friday, we get hosted, go through the official visit weekend. I was the last one to go. And he was just like, listen, I went by myself. My parents didn't come; they had to work. So I was in Orlando, 18 years old, by myself. 17 actually. I was.
Oh boy, shenanigans.
Yeah. So I went into the office, and he was just like, "Listen, I've told everybody, are you ready? If you're ready to commit, open arms. But since your parents aren't here, I want you to go back and talk to your parents, and I'm going to be up there on Monday." And I'm looking like, "What do you mean be up there Monday?" So I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, I'll go talk to my parents, and then I'll have an answer on Monday. This man literally shows up to my school at 8:00 in the morning on Monday, wanting an answer. But yeah, and again, I think to me that was important. Just him putting forth the effort. I felt like, he actually wants me. I just talked to him yesterday. He's flying up here. Granted, now that I know more about recruiting, he probably had, some recruiting time, stuff like that. But at the time I was like, he really wants me. So at that moment I was like, I know what I'm going to do. And I told him silently that that's what I was going to do. And then, there were other things because I think it was early January and we didn't sign till February. So yeah, that was pretty much it.
So let's talk about that a little bit. What was the negative recruiting that you were hearing from other schools at that time? Like what were they telling
UCF
you?
Or just
yeah.
I mean, most of them again. So my final three were Vandy and Stanford and Georgia Tech. Final four. Vandy was going through a coaching change. That's when James Franklin went to Penn State. So that they weren't really talking bad. They were more so really trying to figure out what they were going to do up front. They didn't know if James Franklin was staying, leaving, who he was taking. So it kind of went silent on them. I also think that's kind of why Kyle Gibson ended up flipping from Vanderbilt. People don't know. He ended up flipping from Vanderbilt to UCF, and I haven't talked to him about it. Why? My guess is again, it went really silent from that school as far as who's recruiting, who's out recruiting, things like that. But really, it was more so just like again at the time, UCF was an AAC team. Again, not really a lot of people knew except the people who were fans of UCF. So they would be like, "Man, y'all don't play. They're not playing any big time football. This is just a one-off year. Every team gets it, just like Boise State. That was pretty much what I was hearing."
What's the worst thing you heard
about UCF?
Yeah, from another coach.
Well, it was one of them was like, that they had a school shooting, and it was I was like, what? And it was, I think it was the one that was Tower. It was in Tower. I don't know if it was an official shooting, but I know that there was an incident.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a coach.
In the Towers.
There was a coach that told me that, and my mom. So yeah, so how.
So let me now that's interesting. So that tells you everything you need to know about everything that they're going to pull out of the woodwork to try to flip a recruit. So that's more of what I was after. By the way, we're going to take a pause here for a couple of things. One, I am drinking my homegrown Citronaut tonight, so tip the cup there. Trey and I did not plan our Flow Grown adventure here, our UCF Flow Grown adventure, but we're looking spiffy. And last but not least, I forgot to mention this. I was going to do this at the beginning of the show, and I just got carried away. I want to wish a very, very happy birthday to our own favorite internet weasel, the king of the internet weasels, Brandon Helwig, who's been around the program since he was, I don't know, like 18, 19 years old. Yeah, Brandon is amazing person in person if you get the chance to meet him. He's an encyclopedia of knowledge about UCF's been there through it all. There's a reason he always gets to ask the first question at press conferences. And I've known him for at least, I think 13, 14 years. So shout out to Brandon. Happy birthday, buddy. I hope, you're having a good one and actually enjoying it. He's probably on his way to Oklahoma. I know he had a presser today. He was at the presser on his birthday asking Gus as hard of questions as you can ask Gus on a presser, which is not very hard. So shout out. Happy birthday, my friend. Here's to many happy and healthy more. We appreciate you. All right, Trey, I'm sorry. Now that we've deviated from our regularly scheduled programming here. So you were recruited. You overcame everything. And let me ask you, and I will ask you one more question about recruiting. Would NIL have changed your decision or impacted your decision at that time?
It's hard to say for me because that wasn't my mindset when I was 18, or 16, 17, 18. We didn't play high school football to get to college to chase the bag. Like, that wasn't my mindset. Now, we played high school football to make it to the NFL. Absolutely. Like, that was how a lot of the guys that I played with in high school, college, like, that was our goal. Like, hey, we're here for one thing. We're trying to get to the NFL. But in the back, the number two thing for me was always academics, in the sense, I always wanted, again, to graduate with a degree. I was the first. My mom and grandma were the only ones. So that wasn't something that really happened in my family. So that was a main thing for me. Now, granted, again, if somebody would have offered me $500,000 over 3 years, or, each year over the course of 3-4 years, that changes a lot, just as a 27-year-old now, knowing, things like that. That's a lot of money, and I don't blame kids if that's what's being told. That's the contract. I don't necessarily blame them for going after that, because that is life-changing money. That's not just, that's here's some money, blah, blah, like $500,000 each year over the course of 3-4 years is a lot of money. And if you manage it right, you can be set for a long time. So I think it probably would have, if I were placed in this generation right now, because that's kind of the game. I think back then, maybe not so much, because it was a totally different ball game, in my opinion. Which I think that's why we see a change in, at least to me as a former player. The guys are different. That's what, we talk about it, some of the older former guys. Just the vibe of the guys are different, what they like, what their grind is. Because, again, UCF, we were the first, like, when I was there, we weren't respected in the sense. We were grinding for everything. So back to the first question, yes, I think it would have changed it, but I think only if I was dropped in this time, not back then. I don't think it would matter.
All right. So there you go, guys. Even the old heads would be affected by NIL. So, all right. So let's pivot here. So we kind of talked. There it is. Pivot. So we've talked a little bit about, your recruiting process, etc. By the way, I do want to ask you this on the recruiting process. You obviously got a cookie cake from Publix, right? What other swag or Skittles or whatever else or swag did you get as part of your trip?
I think a lot of everybody there got like the recruit jacket. We had like a recruit jumpsuit that we wore around that day.
Did you get to keep it, or did you have to give it back?
No, we got to keep it. I think everybody that we took it, because I was the last one to go in Oleary's office. Everybody else left and went to the back, either drove home or flew back. And everybody that I saw was wearing their jumpsuit. So unless in that time from them going there to home or they took it back, that's it. But I kept mine. So that was pretty much it as far as swag wise. The cookie cake on the hotel bedroom always.
Did you eat it all?
Not all of it, but I did have a couple bites. But and again, like I said, that was never my goal when I was like.
No, I get it, but it's nice to know. Like, back then, recruiting.
Oh, that was super cool.
Yeah. You got a cookie cake, you got chips, you got like all these candies, and you're an 18-year-old kid. You're like, yo, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. Josh, I don't think we want to do that, but that was his Cookie Monster impression.
But even in like 3 to 4 years, like just jumping from my 2014 recruiting to 2017 and 18, the recruiting was 1,000 times better. I think I do say back then I thought it was awesome, but once Frost got in,
well, the budget was different too.
Exactly. That's very true. But yeah, it was, and again, that goes to just show how old I am in that sense.
Yeah. See, you didn't even get to go to Disney with Frost.
Yeah, man. Golly. I went when we were hosting. We were hosting. I would go, but.
All right. So what's the craziest recruiting thing you may or may not have participated in? Somebody else may have. Was there any like crazy stories like, they went to the club and made it rain or anything like that?
No, not that I was a part of. Again, I wasn't. That's not why I went. on my visits. Now,
I know you weren't, but like, what's the craziest recruiting story you heard?
I mean, I truthfully, I couldn't tell you. So there was a guy named Don Travius on my visit who played at Buford.
Don Travius Wilson, right?
Yeah. So he played it. He played at Buford with me. So that was my host. Man, we sat and played Madden with Rennell Hall, Brashad Perriman.
Speedy's
Jacoby
awesome.
Glenn. Yeah,
Brashad's awesome.
Jacoby Glenn. Like, that's what we were doing that whole night.
Hold on. We gotta pump the brakes on that. Jacoby, bro. I know you did it for the shoes, but bro, you could have gotten so much more if you would have just one more year.
Yeah. I mean, that's a sticky situation. Just, he was a second team All-American, man. I don't know if it was getting much better than that.
Yeah.
He tried to strike while the iron's hot. He had flaws that he needed to work on that college could have helped.
He was young. Physically, he could have used another year.
So that's the difference between NIL and what we had in the past.
Exactly.
In NIL, he would have stayed one more year because someone would have paid him a lot.
Well, they would have had to pay him. Marcus Jordan would have had to pay him in shoes. Which, by the way, the basketball team, I don't know if you guys saw that today, got to go to their trophy room and go pick out stuff. So I don't know how legal that is from an NCAA perspective, but it must be because people were rolling around the trophy room and just picking up shorts and shoes. And oh yeah. So shout out to Mr. Jordan for supporting the troops. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. So I mean, and like you said, Josh, it's NIL is so different because, in a sense, we could have paid money to keep them, but we also could have got picked off. So it's like a double-edged sword. Like, it's one of those things where he's like, well, if I'm going to stay, I'm going to go play SEC, or I'm going to go play, bigger time football at the time, and I think that's where NIL hurt us at that, like, the past few years. I think you won't see that as much now going forward. But
well, I mean, and part of that is because of the people that we had on our team for the last 3 or 5 years. We're not recruiting with the Big 12 next to our name, or in a conference with multiple top 25 teams.
Hold on. Let's pump the brakes on that. We've been recruiting with the Big 12 tag since 2021. Let's be real. It was announced at the end of 2021, in the middle of the season of the 2021 season, that we were joining the Big 12.
And Bethune is how old? And right,
I get that about
Tatum if you're
Bethune,
talking seniors or even super seniors or people who have gone to other Matt Lees of the world, they were not. We didn't have if we had that 4 years ago, and so. What I think will happen is in a couple of years, we'll see, if one or two people get picked off, like Trey was saying, I think it might be as less of a gap. Because I will say this is current stuff.
I will say a couple of things on that. Matt Lee left because of he wasn't happy with the situation in the quarterback room, and he graduated. So he has a UCF degree.
Yeah.
So and Miami's, got some brand recognition academically, right? And more importantly,
they're a really good tool.
More importantly, what I'm trying to solve with our other show, right? They've got a really good network.
Huge network.
So Matt Lee got paid. He graduated from UCF, and he was working on his network. He's got his. So he's got 2 schools worth of connections now.
Yeah.
So I don't hate him, although
Roger. That's kind of how my career is too. Like,
you get to make your excuses later. We'll talk about that in a bit.
For the point of the connections part, like, there's people that I still talk to a lot, just from Nebraska, with the type of connections they have with a lot of people that, again, I would have.
Well, that's awesome, because you need to dip into those connections for me, because I am looking for seed money for a couple of companies. So I'm just saying.
Let me know.
We'll have to talk about that off. I'll even give you a little offline. I'll give you a little retainer for that. I'll give you a little NIL chump change for that. So
network
that being
image
said, that being said, hey, little what do they call it when you have the multiverse and you've got a cross team up?
Spider-Man going.
Yeah, it's a cross team up there. So, all right. That being said, my point though, Josh, was we have been recruiting with the Big 12 tag.
You're
since
right.
2021.
But the people who are leaving aren't people who we've recruited 1 or 2 or even 2.5 years.
No,
ago.
I agree. All right. So now we're moving on finally. So now you've got the 2015 season. So talk us through that. Like, that's your first season at UCF, right? Everybody or second season, but first playing. Yeah. So you redshirted your first year.
Mhm.
So, which, by the way, any interesting tidbits you want to share about that 2014 season? Maybe a Justin Holman story or two, old laser arms. Maybe the broken ankle on the basketball court. Maybe anything of interest from there.
Nobody broke their ankle 2014.
I thought it was Holman. I thought that's why Holman was out.
Yeah.
No. He not that I remember.
He hurt his finger, I think.
Yeah, he didn't.
I think you're thinking Daryl Mack did that.
Yeah, DJ Mack.
Or Mack. I'm sorry, DJ Mack. My bad.
Yes, that was 20.
That's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I will say this on any stories from that 2014 team / season would be interesting. And we're talking about not the stuff that you could see on the field. And then from 2015, what was that like going through that season in 2015? And then at the end of that conversation, we'll kind of pivot and see how that turned into 2016.
Okay.
So remember, we're looking for the stuff that people don't see on TV because it's a unique insight.
2014 was the year after the Fiesta Bowl. So I think the expectations of that year that was the first, I think, pressure for that group that they hadn't experienced. I think there was a expectation to, hey, even though we lost Blaise Bortles, we have to ball. We have that expectation. We're bringing back everybody on defense. We're bringing back all our studs on offense for the most part. And the guys we're losing, we're replacing with more studs in the sense, you lose Storm Johnson. Oh, you have William Stanback coming back. You have those guys. So I think that kind of was the issue with that team. Really, there weren't really a lot of stories of that team. A lot of those guys were super seniors. They were fifth-year guys who all had.
You had JJ that got hurt during the season. That was tough.
Yeah. So a lot of those guys. So that group taught me how to be a professional. As far as
that's great. What did they show you that allowed you to carry that forward?
Yeah, just the work you have to put in each and every day. They weren't satisfied after the Fiesta Bowl, which I always thought that was not crazy, but just, that's awesome how guys can win a Fiesta Bowl, don't have really the big head for the most part, and continue to grind and work. But I think that's because that's just what those guys did. They had to,
So was that a George O'Leary thing, or was that a personnel thing?
No, because so this kind of leads up into it. I think it was a personnel thing, because again, those guys showed us the way. This is how you work, no matter what.
This is the way.
This is the way, yeah. And granted, it did start with George O'Leary, but to me, a coach can only influence people so much. You have to have that inside you to want to go after practice and do things.
Now, I will challenge you on that, because one of the things that you've said to me off camera, obviously, and off radio, right, is that you said that for you and a lot of the people on the 2016 and 2017 team, George O'Leary's influence, his hard-nosed approach, no nonsense, be early for meetings. If you're not early, you're late. We've heard about people throughout the years that have said stuff like that, whether they be linemen. When I'm talking, I'm friends with Aaron Evans and a couple of the other guys, Chris and all those guys. And they were talking about how big of a deal it was that you had that George O'Leary mindset, professional attitude, and then took it into the Frost years when Frost came in.
Yep.
And and kind of flipped it to more of a player's coach type of attitude.
Yes, exactly.
But it was the mixture of both of those things that made you guys successful.
Exactly.
So, and then I will also ask you this: how many times and how afraid were you when the white horse was called in the locker room?
So to your point, the first point, that's why I think we had so much success in that brief period of 2017, 18, and a little even I think 19. We started off pretty good. I think it was because of the Oleary guys. Now, granted, there's guys like Shaqueem Griffin. He didn't really like Coach Oleary in the sense because he didn't really give him a fair shot. There was a lot, and I completely get it, but I think that fire within Shaqueem started because of that. Like, because Coach Oleary was so hard on him, he was so, bullish and just like, you're not going to play for me, things like that. Shaqueem he could have done one or two things. He could have quit and been done, and you never know anything about Shaqueem Griffin. Or, he takes that fuel and he works. The thing people don't know about Shaqueem is, even during that time when Coach Oleary wasn't playing him, telling him he's not going to play, things like that, he was still a hard worker. Because I think the guys before him, listen, you have to work hard. If you want to ever get a chance to play and be for Coach Oleary, you have to work hard no matter what. You have to be in the right spots no matter what. So Shaqueem grinded. He would be in the playbook. He would work hard, because he never felt that he felt like he always didn't get a good shot, but he always wanted to be ready if he got that shot. So that's what a lot of people don't know about him. But I think that started with, again, that 14 group, for me at least. Seeing them and how they worked helped me develop that. Seeing Clayton Gathers lead. And then I think that's what carried over to when, we get to 2016, 17, 18. When I was put in that position, that's the kind of thing I expected from my young guys who were, Richie Grant, Antoine Collier, those guys, Brandon Moore.
So was that a leadership being vocal, or was that a leadership like, I'm going to outwork you, so you better keep up?
Yeah, I think it's both. We can get to 2017 in a minute, but 2015 was hard because we felt that the coaches didn't have our best interest at heart.
Oh, well, okay. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so we had a lot of different. We had some coaching turnover. Coach Callahan ended up going to Florida. Our DC coach Summers ended up, I think he went to Georgia Southern, if I'm not mistaken, or Colorado State. One of them. Yeah,
Georgia Southern. He took over as head coach there.
Yeah. So once he did that, we had a complete flip on the defensive side, except Coach Zoe, who was the DB coach or the D-line coach. We had new coaches, and a lot of people didn't see we didn't see eye to eye with Coach Bresnahan. Now, at this point, what people don't understand, Oleary became the AD. He wasn't as on top of football in the sense that he could be in every meeting. He could be, like you said, White Horse. We'd be like, hey, White Horse. For fans that are listening and watching, White Horse is what we named Coach Oleary a nickname, so that if anybody was around, we knew if we're doing any shenanigans, doing something we shouldn't be doing, or, hey, he's around, you need to, if this is the time to be perfect in your rep, this is the time because he's right around. That's what we called him.
Did he give you that patented smirk because he knew what it meant? That had been around long enough in the locker room that
Coach Oleary is a smart guy. I don't know if people think because he's old or something that he's not. That he's a smart guy. He's very witty. He cracks a lot of jokes. He's a funny guy, and he's a funny guy. I didn't have problems with him because, again, I knew he was a no-nonsense, show up on time, this, that, and the third. To me, if the thing with him, he didn't have favorites. It was if you stayed out of his way and showed up and didn't get in trouble, you were his favorite. So that was me. I just said, hey, I'm showing up 30 minutes early. I'm going to class. I'm doing what I have to do. Whatever to not get in trouble is how I became, a favorite,
Did you see anything? Because there's, some comments that are attributed to him that are controversial. Did you see any different?
He was a controversial coach.
But did he treat you or look at you any differently than anybody else?
No, I can honestly say he didn't. I remember that because there were remarks that came out in the 2014 year. To me, I didn't see any issue with it because I had the personal relationship with him. You know, he went to my home, he recruited me. Now, granted, if that's what he's doing behind closed doors, I don't know that Coach Oleary. I can't speak to that Coach Oleary. I can only speak to the guy that, you know, when he was my coach, how he talked to me, how he treated me. Granted, he was a tough, hard-nosed dude to everybody, to even his favorites. But, you know, behind closed doors, I can't speak to it because we didn't have that relationship to where I'd go over to Coach O'Leary's house and, you know, we'd sit and watch a movie. No, that wasn't Coach Oleary. You know, that's
so you weren't doing the AD like pool party at Danny White's house kind of thing?
No, that's not what we were doing.
Okay.
And
right.
I think Coach Oleary, I think he wanted to keep that relationship that way because I think that's how he wanted to run the program, which at the time it brought a lot of success to UCF that when UCF needed it. Now, granted, even though he went out on a bad note, I think we had moved past that point in our development as a program, and we needed something different.
Well, and I will say this too. The only reason Coach Oleary was involved with the program after the Fiesta Bowl was because John Hitt begged him to be.
Begged him because he was done. That was even when I was getting recruited, going back to that, that's what the recruiting coach was telling me. He was saying, hey, Coach Oleary is not going to be – temper yourself. That's why I waited so long for UCF. He's like, because you don't want to commit, shut down all these other coaches, and then Coach Oleary retire, and then you want to flip, and then guys have filled their spots. He's like, so you need a slow play. And again, I think that his name's Coach Davis. He handled my recruiting, I mean, brilliantly. And that's what he told me. He's like, listen, I think it was like around December. He's like, I'm hearing that Oleary done after this game, win or loss. So wait.
So were you ever in Coach Key's office at 4 a.m.? I want to know that.
No, Coach Key was the O-line coach. Had no. That's a question.
No. He became the head coach there for a while for 2015.
No, he wasn't the head coach. It was,
it
was Danny. I forgot his name already. He was a quarterback coach.
Danny Barrett.
Coach Barrett. Yeah, he became the interim head coach.
Yeah.
I remember.
Maybe offensive coordinator, I guess. Then.
Oh, no, so Coach Key was the offensive coordinator the 2015 season. He was that.
Yeah.
You said, yeah, he was the offensive coordinator. And again, I didn't play offense, so I never.
So
I heard about those meetings. I was never a part of them.
Well, what did you hear about those meetings? Because
I heard he kept the O-line there till 4 a.m., just ripping them, making them. He's like, you guys just need to be tough. Again, I mean, I don't know exactly what it is. I just heard, you know, he's had them there at 4 a.m. And I think it was in preseason because that's when one of my guys, he was my groomman, Chavis Dickey. He quit not the same day, but I think it was a couple of weeks later. Chavis Dickey, he ended up starting a lot of games for UCF, but that's a good story. Why he?
Well, that's what we're story timing it with Trey now. You can't just set that up and not tell the story.
Yeah, so he got pneumonia right before preseason, and I mean, again, you have pneumonia, you can't play football, let alone just breathe on your own. And I mean, Coach Oleary was like, "Oh, do you want to practice or do you want to breathe?" And it's like, you know, what kind of situation can we get put as an 18, 19-year-old kid? It's like, I'm on scholarship to play football. My head coach is asking, do I want to practice or not? Is this a trick question? So just don't answer it. So he didn't answer it, but he was pissed. I mean, he was fuming, you know, how mad he was that he asked him really that question. So he goes out to practice. I mean, he's struggling. So the next day we have walkthroughs in the morning. He tells me, he's like, Trey, if I'm not out here because we practice in the afternoon because Oleary wanted to practice at the hottest time to get us in shape. So he's like, if I'm not out here in the afternoon, just know I quit. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Trust me, during those camps, everybody wants to quit. You hear that? I'm going to quit tomorrow.
And I will say this, but you know, we talk about this all the time, you and I offline, right? Like how different a mentality is from football back then. And obviously I'm a lot older than you, right? So
exactly.
I'm 15 years your senior, so I was 15 years old playing football when you were in diapers.
Exactly.
But we did 3-a-days.
Mm-hmm.
We did 3-a-days. We did Oklahoma drills. We did all of that stuff. Like I understand why they changed it.
Yeah.
But the mentality, I think Coach Oleary and his team at that time was on the precipice of that change to a player's coach mentality, which is more prevalent today than it was before. But
Exactly.
I mean, if you ask, I mean, granted, I wasn't playing D1 football, but I can tell you, and I don't know if you did 3 days in your high school, but
yes,
we did 3 days. We did 3 days over the summer.
Exactly.
Every year.
Because there's no limit. That was our school's loophole all the time. We'd go to a camp, and every school would be at this camp, and we just knock out 3 days. We go early in the morning, get breakfast afterwards, have like a little hour film meeting on one position, go back out in the afternoon. Most of the times it was with full pads. Come back in, get lunch, and then we'd have walkthroughs at night.
Oh yeah, it wasn't shells. Like
No,
you weren't in shells. You were in full pads.
Full pad and walkthrough.
Doing push-ups in pads. You were doing the whole thing.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and again, Coach. So by the time I got to UCF, 3 days were banned. You could have 2 a days. One was a walkthrough. One was a full practice.
Right.
So again, when the language is never specific. I mean, I know you guys are finance guys and deal with lawyers and things like that. You know, the language that's everything that matters is the language. How can it be interpreted? So everybody in the country is finding these loopholes of, oh, well, we didn't practice. It was just a walkthrough because of this. Oh, we didn't have the full field, or we weren't wearing, pants with pads. We just had shells on. Trust me, in college, shells is live. As you're just not taking anybody to the ground. You have guys running full speed hitting. You just don't take them to the ground because we should be good enough to where guys aren't falling. So we did that all the time with Coach Oleary.
You mean you should be able to tackle?
You should be, yes, exactly. Perfect way, exactly. But yeah, with Coach Oleary, so it was gruesome, man. It was tough because he wanted to build toughness, mentally tough guys. So yeah, I mean, you heard I'm gonna quit. I can't do this anymore. You heard that every day. So it was almost like white noise when people would say it. So again, back to the story, Chavis did it. So we come to practice. I'm running a little bit late because I got my tape late. So I'm running in. I run in the locker room. Everybody's already walking out, and I'm putting on my shoulder pads, and I see, Dickey's locker. Everything's still in it. So I'm like, this man really isn't gonna quit today. And that coaches come in. Where's Chavis? Where's Chavis? I'm like, Coach, I'm not gonna lie, he quit. He told me he was gonna quit this morning. He quit. So they went and looked for him. Car gone. Turns out he goes to watch a movie. And Coach Oleary calls him back, like, hey, if you're gonna quit, like, have a meeting with me, blah, blah, blah. So then Oleary comes and brings him in his office. This is what Chavis told me. And he was like, man, how come you didn't invite me to the movie? If that's what you were gonna do, I would have came with you. Like, that's the kind of witty guy Coach Oleary was. Like, he knew he kind of pushed Chavis too far. He knew what he said was wrong if it got him to that point, but he's always trying to build mental toughness all the time, and I think that's what he wanted. And
did Coach ever admit that he was wrong?
To Chavis for that?
No, period.
No, he would never do that. He was always right because he's the head coach. And, how I was raised in the sense, how I was, at my high school, whatever the head coach says goes. Even if it's wrong, you think it's wrong, okay. And, that's tough to deal with when he's wrong. You know, and it's hard, especially.
But that's a life lesson too, because exactly. I can tell you this right now, in the business world, you will run into people that are highly successful, motivated that way, that will never admit they're wrong. Same way in the military.
Yep.
Officers are taught that you never admit that you're wrong. So it's not just a life lesson from that standpoint. It also translates to real life.
Yeah. And again, that's how my parents raised me. It's not necessarily about being right or wrong. It's about respecting the person who's in charge of you. To me, at least that's how I was raised. My mom and dad have gotten plenty of stuff wrong that they told me to do. But, if I mention it, they're like, no, that's what I wanted. I'm the head of the house. That's what I'm going to do. Same thing with Coach Oleary. Hey, I wanted to do this. I run this program. That's what I'm going to do. So it's a kind of respect in that sense to where, I understand it. But like you said, we were right at that time to where players coach is more in style. That was just what was happening. And
all right, so I'm going to ask you one more question about Coach Oleary, and this is more relative to your recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is a sensitive subject for everyone because I want to be respectful because someone lost their life. Did anybody ever use the Eric Plancher story?
Nope. I didn't hear about that till I got here on campus.
So that didn't affect anything for you, right?
Not for me.
Okay.
Again, the only bad thing that I really heard about UCF that was like outside of football was the incident at the school incident at Tower. I think you said Tower 1, Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only like outside of football incident that I really had that was used.
All right. So talk about 2015. You never go into a season thinking that you're going to go winless. How does that happen?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Only one guy said we were going to lose every game, and it was Kevin Smith. After we had the scrimmage right before, like to end the preseason, the scrimmage we had as a team just to kind of finalize the depth chart was horrible. I mean, guys missing tackles, offense not moving. I remember we go into the meeting, and granted, Kevin Smith, he was a quality control guy, so he wasn't like the big name, but his name carried weight because he's Kevin Smith.
Oh, 100%. He's
UCF,
Kevin Smith.
Yeah, UCF.
I wish he was at UCF, to be honest.
Like, so we listened when he spoke. And I remember before the coaches came in, again, Oleary 30 minutes early is when we showed up. He was like, I'm going to be honest, y'all are going to lose every game. Granted, we're back-to-back defending champs. That's how we felt, conference champs.
Was he saying that to motivate you, or was he like, that was an honest assessment?
I think it was to motivate us, but I think we did look that bad on tape, looking back at it, because I think he was like, listen, y'all perform like that, what y'all just did at the end of preseason. He's like, this is kind of, and granted, there's a lot more in this. I'm just summarizing it. He's like, this is kind of scrimmage you're supposed to have at the early in the preseason, and we clean it up. He's like 3-4 scrimmages in, you're not supposed to look like this. Y'all are going to lose every game if y'all don't pick it up. So I can give him credit. He was the only one that saw that because he saw probably even just the work that went into it, things like that. But yeah, so 0-12, man. Again, like you said, nobody really goes in trying to lose every game. We weren't even trying to lose. I don't think we thought we would lose every game until Furman. When we lost to Furman, we're like, all right, listen, guys, we might be in for a long season. And that was just my perspective as a young guy, and I think I had a naive perspective because I had 3-4 years left. A lot of the seniors, nope. I remember we were 0-4. Like, listen, all that matters is conference, and maybe that was just them being the senior leaders that they had to be. And I respect a lot of them for that. But we knew, I think after Furman, like, we're about to lose every game because everything that could have went wrong. Injuries, unlucky field goals, fumble, everything. I mean, I joke about it to this day. I know every point of every game that year, the time that we lost the game. Like, I knew we were going to lose at this point of every game.
Wow. So, like, what does the sideline look like? Like, leading up to Furman, during the Furman game, and afterwards? Like, what do you see? Because you and I have talked about what we see on the sideline right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into that. But what was it like there?
So going into Furman, I mean, again, we're thinking we should beat this team. I don't care. Like, yeah, we lost to Stanford. Yeah, we lost to FIU by 1. But Furman, they're not a big time football like we are. We've recruited better. We should win this game. And get back on track our season. This is what this game is for. That was before the game. As the game's going on, they're hanging around. We're not moving the ball on offense. And again, it's like, if we can't move the ball on offense against Furman, we're going to lose every game.
Who was the quarterback that game? I don't remember.
It was, I think it was Bo Schneider. Bo Schneider.
Or Tyler Harris.
It was Bo Schneider because Justin Holman got hurt.
Yep.
Stanford game, which that's one of the reasons that we struggled that game too, because that was our whole game plan, was putting them that was when the read option first was not getting started, but it was fairly new. So we were going to put them in a big situation with Holman being able to run a little bit. But yeah, so Bo Schneider started. He struggled again. He's a true freshman. He's not played at this level yet. Everything's moving fast. It happens.
As I remember, he had a pretty good arm.
Yeah, he just wasn't extremely mobile. But our offense didn't ask for the quarterback to be extremely mobile, and it was more being accurate with a good arm. But yeah, so as that game's going on, it's going on, and then they go up, and then I think we go up a little bit, then they score at the end, and once we lost, I was like, we might lose every game. Now, did that determine how hard we were going to work? No, because again, in my head, I'm like, I have 4 years left, or 3 years left. I still have to get better, no matter what, because I'm not done after this year. One, I can't go to the NFL. Two, they're not drafting anybody off of a team that's losing every game from the NFL anyway. But I can still work on my craft, things like that. And again, so I think that was the game that we realized. But as the year went on, I mean, defensively, and this goes to when I was saying the defense had issues with our DC, we were changing who started. We made a change every week up until Coach Oleary got fired. So for 8 games, we had a different starting lineup of guys. And
well, let's put a pin in that right there, because we're seeing that right now on our current team.
Yeah,
like whether it be O-line, because we're going to have another change again. Gus talked about that today. That the defense, we're going to see a lot of different players that haven't been playing as much. How does that affect the team?
It does a lot, especially because the thing, as fans that we are now, we don't see the everyday practice. We don't see the everyday.
Well, we definitely don't with Gus.
No, yeah. I mean, even the everyday film.
We did with George Oleary,
yeah,
but nobody else. If you wanted to go to practice, you could go to practice and watch practice.
Yeah, but so as a player, if guys are good. If, listen, this guy's starting. I don't know why this guy's starting. Like, that's just the reality of it. That as a player. And most of the time, hey, I shouldn't be starting. Things like that. If a guy's more talented, everything like that. So that was a lot of it in the 0-12 year. A lot of guys that were starting shouldn't have been starting, but were for some reason. And they wouldn't make the change. They change other people. So I don't know what's going on now. I mean, like if you're saying Gus is saying that, again, the guys know who should and shouldn't be starting in. And just from my view, I do know guys that shouldn't be, like on the current team, that shouldn't be. I just don't know the backups because I don't see the practice. I just see there's no way that this guy's the best that we have. If it is, we have a problem. And again, I'm not going to say any names. It's just, as my former player watching the games, I know there are guys who are out there.
It's a different perspective.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, there's no way this guy should be playing. And if this is the best we have a problem. Like, that's where my analysis to the defense come from. Because, again, if there's some of these guys that are playing because that's the best, then we have a serious depth problem. Like Alan was talking about, like maybe our depth is not as good as we think it is. And that was pretty much 2015. And we were changing everything all year, and I think it hurts.
So were you hanging your head low the entire rest of the season after Furman? Was there a spark missing? Because you said I'm going to personally do blah 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 blah, but you're not every guy on the team.
Yeah.
Did you see that level of effort go down?
Yeah, absolutely. I think after Furman, it was like. That was when it started really going down. I think those games before that, the effort was great. Guys really, again, we thought this was going to get our season back on track. But I think after Furman and then South Carolina, because they weren't even that good that year. I think so. Another backstory: the reason Steve Spurrier retired was because when he played us, we were beating them at halftime, and he's like, "This team is not good, and we're losing to them at halftime." He said he knew at halftime that he wanted to retire from coaching because he just couldn't get it. And South Carolina kind of went down the dump that year. But once we lost to South Carolina, that was when it was just, you started seeing it in practice. You started seeing guys just, I wouldn't say they didn't care. I think we all cared, but I think that's when we start, the divide that was between the coaches that were issues became magnified because now we're losing. So like I said, it's easy. I mean,
is it between coaches or between the coaches and the players?
Coaches and the players. That's when the fissure started happening. Because
do you see that happening right now with our team?
The reason I don't know because I'm not in there. That's something that I look at, like when I go to the games. I don't really look for it when I'm watching it on TV because I'm like watching it as if I'm watching film. When I go to the games, all I'm watching is the body language of the guys, how they react on the sideline. I watch the game too, but I think that tells a lot more. The Baylor game, again, I left when it was 35-7, so everything was great on the sidelines, you know. But afterwards, I've talked to some guys, and again, they said they were dead, they were mad. So I see similarities in that sense that guys are frustrated with maybe their roles, maybe guys playing, maybe just how everything's unfolding.
The coaching staff.
Yeah, and that's fair because, again, the coaches aren't the ones playing. The coaches aren't going to be the ones necessarily getting the most slander. It's always going to be the players because we're the ones that are performing.
All right. Is the coaching staff putting this year's team in the best position to win, in your opinion?
I don't think they are. I don't think so in the sense that I just don't think the coaches are making the necessary adjustments in game. I think that the game plans are solid. Just from what I see in the first quarter for the most part. I know offensively, they always start out pretty sharp.
It's a script.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like everybody has the scripted, you know, they always talk about the scripted 10, 15 plays to start a game. Same thing on defense. We're going to start out when they come out in this because the offense is doing it. We're going to do it too. But after that, that's where I see the drop off. I see that they're not making adjustments. They're going out making mistakes. They come out next drive, make the same mistakes. Granted, is that a coaching thing? Is that a player thing? I can't pinpoint it because, again, I'm not in the locker room. When I was in the locker room, 0-15, we knew it was a coaching thing. And then following up 2016-17, it showed it was more so a coaching thing because a lot of the guys that were on that 2015 team were making great plays and playing very good football a year, 2 years later. You know, so I think that's where
let's pause that though, because here's, you know, as you're kind of talking about this, right? The scripted plays, for people to really understand what that means. That the scripted plays are plays that you're going to play no matter what. And you're practicing those more versus pulling plays out, the group of plays that you've practiced, but you haven't focused as much on offensively. So I think that's important for people to know. You should be really good at your scripted plays.
Yeah, like, if you're not good at your scripted plays, there's a huge problem. Because
I remember
you're not prepared for what those guys are doing, or you got guys not executing what they've been executing all week. Like, that's a huge problem.
All right, so we've kind of gone through 2015. How does that transition to success in 2016 and 2017? And I realize we're now an hour in and we still got to preview Oklahoma. So we will probably have a part 2 of Trey Talks at some point. But let me say this. What we've been talking about, it's great to be able to get a player's perspective, especially someone who's been through it, to see what's happened and where we're at. And not just a player's perspective, but a player's perspective at UCF. So let's pivot into 2016, 2017. Pivot! What changed?
Just, again, I think the culture changed. But I also think...
What about it, though?
It was just we were a little bit more free. We weren't always walking on eggshells. Not that that's a problem, because, again, I think there's a time and situation that is required.
Eggshells because you were afraid of the coaches, or eggshells because you were afraid to fail?
Because we were afraid to fail. I promise you, the reason we're not scared of coaches is because we're in the weight room moving 300 pounds, 400 pounds, 500 pounds, 600 pounds. Most of those guys are not scared of anybody that's telling us what to do. There's been plenty of...
I don't mean physically afraid. I just mean like to let down and you know, have to do up downs or run the stadium stairs or You know.
So again, we were never afraid of that, because at the end of the day, we knew. So there's plenty of times where they'd be like, you guys need to do this, and dudes are just like, I'm not doing that. And what coach can you say do it? You can't make... That's the difference, I think, between college and high school. you cannot make a grown man do something. Not in college, at least. You're not telling, for example, you're not telling Jemias Pittman, you do 500 up downs because I want you to. He's going to be like,
Jemias Pittman did whatever he wanted.
But that was a lot of guys, though. You couldn't just make guys do something for no reason. We're way smarter than that. We just didn't blindly do anything. We're not just going to let you abuse us in a sense, But I think we were just scared of failure. I think it was harped on.
The motivation no longer is, hey, I don't want to do up downs. It's, I want to be good. I want to be successful. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'll go into that a little bit more. Keep going.
Yeah. So that's where the fear of failure was. We knew that if we messed up, we were coming out of the game at anything. If we missed, if we didn't guard the right guy, if you didn't stay in the gap, if you ran the wrong route, if you called the wrong play, hit the wrong hole, blocked the wrong guy, you would come out of the game literally immediately. There was no wiggle room. So that's when I say walking on eggshells, that's how guys were. So instead of, as you see with the 2017 and 18 teams, going out and making that crazy play, that amazing play, we would hesitate because we're like, if I go and miss this play, I'm coming out of the game.
And that's deadly.
Yeah, and you cannot play football scared. One, because it's already too physical of a sport to play scared. And two, everything is so in the moment that if you have any hesitation, that's the difference between making a play and getting beat.
So, one step.
Yep.
Literally one step.
Literally. Yep. So that was the cultural difference. Coach Frost came in and that coaching staff, and it wasn't easy at first. Yeah, they gave us more freedom. Like, hey, you don't have to show up 45 minutes early. Just be 5-10 minutes before we start our meetings. Don't walk in doing this. You can have, grow your beards out however you want, have your hair as long as you want. I don't care. I just want you guys to play as hard as you can, no fear of failure. That was Coach Frost's motto. And it was hard.
Same way with Chins. You heard him say that all the time.
Yeah.
And I want them to fly into the football.
Yeah. It was hard at first because we were military guys in a sense. We had been conditioned to do this certain way. It took a lot of work. Really, it took a year, which is why that 2016 team, there was a lot of games that we should have won that we didn't, because I think in those moments of tough and the crucial moments, we reverted back to what we knew and we hesitated. We didn't make the plays we should. Whereas 2017, we had a whole nother year to go through this, to break this condition, to just make the play. Who cares? And we went through all of the film and you say, hey, you hesitated here. He didn't make the play. We saw all of the mistakes, So that's what helped 25th. The transition from 15 to 16 and 17 was the culture. But again, we always give Coach Oleary the credit because we were hard-nosed guys. There was not guys quitting in that 2016, 2017, 2018 team. Guys weren't quitting. That's not why we were losing. We lost just because we hesitated. It wasn't that we were scared. It wasn't that it was too hard. That wasn't it. It was just we hesitated and we shouldn't.
So I'll ask you this. How much focus was on fundamentals under Coach Oleary versus that 2016? And I don't want to go beyond 2016 because we don't have time to delve into 2017. Yeah. We'll save that for another show. And honestly, we probably got about 5 minutes before we have to pivot. So more content coming, folks, for those of you that are watching this are as enthralled as I am. But answer that. What do you think? What do you think about that?
So I think the base fundamentals of football are all the same. You want guys that can run, hit, catch, block. Everybody has to do that. And quarterbacks, obviously they need to make the throws, things like that. But every other position, O-line, D-line, linebackers, running backs, receivers, DBs, tight ends, all those guys have the same similar jobs. You got to be able to block well. You got to be able to play physical. You have to be able to run well and catch the ball, offense and defense, hit, tackle, fundamentals. That was the same fundamentals. Oleary, we had those exact same fundamentals. Coach Frost, always those exact same fundamentals. It was just, again, the Coach Frost way, Coach Chin's way. It was a little bit more modern, but it was, again, the culture. It was
Did you practice that way though? Like, who practiced fundamentals more? Was it?
I think
because I.
Okay, go ahead.
And this is where I'm coming from. The thing that I hear from Oleary era players, technique, and fundamentals and attention to detail, is what set them up for the NFL.
Yes.
So, did they focus more on that? And I'm actually leading this question to bridging into the bye week because of what Gus said. Yeah. So, fundamental football, where you place your hands, how you execute a swim move, how do you tackle appropriately. You were talking about gator rolls last week.
Yeah.
Where did you do more of the fundamental drills when you were with Oleary or when you were under Frost?
I think that it was equal. It was just different fundamentals that we stressed because it was a different style. Oleary, the way we played football with Oleary was we want to be a run-heavy team. We want to play solid defense, bend, don't break defense. So to be a bend, don't break defense, you have to be a fundamental tackling different defense. You have to know your assignments. You have to be able to correct hand placements, be in the correct gap, things like that. That's what Oleary stressed, which, again, that's very NFL-ish in the sense the only way you get on the field is if you know what you're doing and you play your technique in your gap and do what you're supposed to do. The thing with Coach Frost that we stressed was being ball aware, punching at the football, the correct way to tackle in the open field versus the correct way to tackle if you're meeting somebody in the hole. There's two different ways to tackle. Because if you're meeting somebody in the hole, Roger, there's no time to hesitate. You have to bring everything you have. Now, you get in the open field where guys can make juke moves, things like that. There's a little bit of hesitation in the sense that you can't just
how you set your feet is different.
Exactly.
How you square your shoulders is different.
Exactly.
Like all of that stuff is different.
So Coach Frost harped more so on that open field style. And again, even in the open field, if you see guys getting wrapped up in his legs, go be more ball aware. Coach Oleary, just get them to the ground. We're going to live to play another down. They can score a touchdown. When we get in the red zone, we're good. Coach Chin's was, hey, if your guy has him held up, punch the ball out, rip the ball out, things like that. So I think that was the difference. And both of those things are fundamentals to football. I just think it was different styles that we harped on. But like you said, Coach Oleary, his track record speaks for itself. A lot of guys that played in the NFL, I know specifically on defense, because they were fundamentally sound, they executed their job, and they knew where they had to be all the time.
And
that's how you stay on the NFL.
Being able to analyze what the offense is trying to do.
Yes, that's how you stay in the NFL once you make it. And I think a lot of those guys, and a lot of people don't know them, but a lot of guys that played and made it to the NFL from there is because of that technique fundamental. Now with Frost, a lot of those guys that played and went, that he recruited and developed, that played and went in the NFL because they could make plays on the ball, or they made a lot of electric plays with the ball in their hand. I think so. That's why I say it's both, in the sense that they both worked fundamentals. They just work different fundamentals for a different style of game that they wanted to play.
All right. And I think that's the point where we pivot.
Now let's go to talk about Gus and what they did in the offseason.
Let's talk about Gus and the bye week. So we went 1-0 against the bye.
Undefeated against the bye.
That's our first Big 12 win. Sorry. I know I'm making light of it. It should have been Baylor, but shoulda, coulda, woulda. That's life. So Gus had his press conference today, and Gus talked about, hey, the first week we just focused on fundamentals. We focused on tackling. We focused on whatever. We went back as coaches and looked at all the film and said, these are the top 3-4 things that we need to address, and we need to change them now, whether they be personnel, whether they be scheme, whether they be whatever. So kind of walk us through that. Do you believe that will help? Number one, focusing on fundamentals and what does that mean? And number two, I think it's crazy for people, and I only think it's crazy for people to think this way because they don't understand how short these timelines are between games as to why Gus was not seeing this earlier. So can you kind of walk through those questions?
Yeah. So the thing of a normal week-to-week game week, you really only watch the previous game. So they finished the game Saturday night. The GAs, quality control, they're working their butts off to break down the tape, cut it up to have it ready for Sunday when we go over it. So we only watch the previous game that Sunday. Most of the time, it's only 30 minutes, really, because you know what happened as a player. You know what you messed up on because you do so much checking in the game and being on the headsets, talking to your coaches about what you need to fix. So you don't really spend too much time recapping because you have to start game planning for the next week. Those guys are.
So it's not really dumping the game. It's dumping the game because you have to.
Because you have to, exactly. So the best thing about a bye week is you have a full week to kind of do either or. So I do believe that Gus and them went back and looked at every game, made every cut up, things like that, because we did that with Coach Oleary and with, Frost. I think that's the smartest thing to do. You go back and see to everything, tendencies. What are we calling on this down, this down and distance? What are we doing? Do we call passes too much? Are we becoming too predictable? Because you always want to be balanced and unpredictable on both sides. So then you just evaluate the game and the players. Gus, like you said, he was mentioning about putting some more new guys in. They probably went back and watched and said, this guy's not getting the job done. This guy is showing in practice that he can. We couldn't do it each week because we didn't have enough time to properly evaluate. But now that we had a week to see and what we're seeing in practice, it might be time. He might be ready. This could be a freshman. This could be a senior who's not playing. It could be anybody. You just have so much more time to prepare and go back and see what worked, what didn't work during the bye week. And then that goes into the part of practice where you're not really preparing for anything yet. You don't have the full game plan of Oklahoma last week. Now, Monday tonight, they probably had it in, officially what they wanted to do, probably Saturday or Sunday officially. So all week, they're just working, like you said, the fundamentals of tackling. Whatever they're struggling with, that's what they should have been working. And the things that we point out, I can definitely see defense.
Let's pause that now. I want to extrapolate on that a little bit. Here's the thing. They do not have unlimited time with the players.
Yeah.
Right? NCAA says you only have a certain amount of time. So when they're breaking down, we talk about periods on here all the time. Mm-hmm. They are practicing specific things like for quarterbacks throwing a certain type of pass or whatever for maybe 7-8 minutes.
Yeah. So we would have with Oleary and Frost, we'd have 20 to 24 periods a day, each different intervals, different lengths. So Fundy, we call it Fundy, which was the first part. That's where DBs, we're working all of our backpedal stuff. And each day is different. So for that 5 minutes, we could work all backpedal and breaks, 45 left, 45 right. Then Tuesday, we can work all man cover stuff. Then Wednesday, we could work all tackling stuff. Like it's so much, but it's always very specific. And I mean, everybody gets a sheet and it has everything detailed to the second how long we're doing it. Even the people that are working the clock and sounding off the alarm for breaks, everything. So it's a well-oiled machine. So I don't know if people know how specific it is, but it is extremely detailed, extremely specific to the second of how long we get to work. So that's why practice is so important all the time, because you only have a certain amount of time to work on things that you have to do.
And you have to do install.
Yeah, exactly.
So my point with all of that is, and your point, I think, is during that week, you have the chance to take a deep breath, go back, work on fundamentals like tackling. Hey, you need to stop doing X, Y, Z and focus on this in this situation and just do that over and over again. Whereas during game weeks, You, like you said, you get back Saturday night. Sunday, you're reviewing film. Monday, you're already on to the next team, and you're practicing the specific things that you want to do to that next team. So you don't have time to work on the fundamentals and practice that over and over again.
Exactly.
So when people hear him say that, I kind of want to put a little bit of context.
Yeah. The bye week is almost like another week of fall camp in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
You're just trying to get better, kind of rewire your brain. It's like you said, take a step back. Let's just work on the basis of football, because truthfully, that's what we're struggling with. At least I'm speaking for the defense. We're just struggling with the fundamentals. Do we have the correct eyes on these plays? Are we tackling correctly? Are we tackling with the right foot up? Are we tackling with the incorrect foot up? Like, those little things matter when you're tackling. And again, like you said, Roger, if you have the wrong foot up, tackling somebody 225 pounds, that's the difference between you stalemating them and getting ran slap over. Like, just the wrong foot, it's that detailed. So yeah, that's what the bye week's for. It's just cleaning up the things that maybe you weren't strong on, or you didn't have the time to address, and you're able to clean that up. And that's the best part about bye week. While also, getting healthy. They're not just going out there for 2 hours banging.
Healthy is huge. So something for Oklahoma. We talked about this before the show. We are getting 2 big pieces back.
Yes, which is key. And you don't want to get anybody hurt on the bye week. That's the worst thing that can happen. You going too hard and somebody gets hurt on the bye week. You want to work on those fundamentals, but you also want to let guys heal up. As we're dealing with so many injuries to key guys, sometimes you just got to let them heal up. I mean, to be honest, JRP probably shouldn't have practiced. I remember in the Peach Bowl, McKenzie didn't practice for, I think, 2 or 3 weeks leading up to it. Because why? Why risk him getting hurt if he's already?
Well, I love how Gus tried to backpedal his 90% thing today in the meeting. He was he basically just said, no, I wasn't saying he was 90%. He just, he looked good enough that he could be up to 90%. So, it's like, bro.
It's coach.
But you were trying to try JRP out there. He wasn't ready.
You knew he wasn't ready. You were hoping that he could just adrenaline his way and play like
and it didn't happen.
So
let's we kind of we talked about the coaches, but like we said, JRP is definitely back. He said he's close to 100% back. He looked great in practice the last 2 weeks. And defensively, we get Ricky Barber back, and our O-line. We've talked a lot about the shuffling O-line, but our center position, we've had some injuries there as well. So Drake Metcalf, Stanford transfer, he was taken out because of the issues that he was having on snap count and also being able to snap the ball. And then we had Caden Kittler, who played for a little while, who's our freshman, who's looking great. He was injured. And that was confirmed in today's press conference that he was really injured. So we're going to be with Beulah. We're going to run with Beulah Schmidt against Oklahoma. And he's been playing the last couple of weeks. And guess what? I don't know. I kind of half jokingly, half seriously said this a few weeks ago. Our false starts went away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to your point, though, we've got some pieces that are coming back for Oklahoma, and I think that's important. I think we were way more banged up than even we think that we were. DBs were banged up, safeties were banged up, D linemen were banged up, offensive linemen were banged up, and anybody who's played football, by the time you get to midseason, chances are you're playing through
everybody's banged up.
Yeah, it's not just banged up. You're playing through pain.
Oh yeah.
When you get to midseason, it's you're playing through pain. Whether you're getting a shot to help you out through the week and through the game, or whether it's you're just playing through bruises and everything else. Like, look, when there's a reason we're spending money on getting hot and cold tubs, right? Mm-hmm. Like Trey, you and I know you did it at the college level and the high school level. I did it at the high school level. I hated the the 50-gallon trash things with the ice in it. I dreaded it every time that I got in there, but there's a reason you do it, right? It's because you're bruised up, you're banged up. It's not just the physical exertion of you going out there doing those runs and pushing, and then also working out and doing all those other things. It's also literally collisions. I read something, it was like part of a CTE study, but basically every time an offensive lineman lines up for a snap, it's like going through a car accident at 30 miles an hour every time. So it couldn't even be, it may not even be, it may be just, all right, you're going up against that D lineman and they're running the ball and that guy's gone. So you're there for 2 seconds. The physical mass and the speed of these guys at this level is such that every single one of those offensive linemen is going through a 30-mile-an-hour vehicle crash every time the ball is snapped.
Yep.
And you're talking about 40 for some teams it's 40. There's very few. Let's say 60 to 80, and in your time it was 86 to 100 snaps per game, like in 2017.
Yeah.
That they're going through a car crash at 30 miles an hour. That wears on you. And then with defensively, this, I know this. When you're running at full speed, because you have time, if you're a defensive back or a linebacker, to get up to full speed, and the running back or the receiver have time to get up to full speed. And some of those receivers and running backs are running 20 to 23 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. You hit somebody at full speed, the physics says it's going to do damage.
Yeah.
So, having that time to recoup and recover is huge. But let's talk about OU. We started this last week. We started talking about OU. One of the keys that we were talking about as far as OU is concerned is being able to get pressure on Dillon Gabriel. Yeah. So I said last week I was going to watch the tape. So I've watched some tape. They do have a good running game. Yeah. This is Jeff Lebby. Mm-hmm. We are all familiar with Jeff Lebby. What does Jeff Lebby run? The same offense that we ran under Frost, right? And Heupel, right? More so Heupel. Yeah. So Heupel, Baylor,
Art Briles
style, right?
Yeah. 2013 Baylor. If you watch that game, that's the exact offense they run.
So they're going to spread us, right? And they're going to spread us in order to do one of two things: either run the ball if they've got the numbers in the box, right? Mm-hmm. Or they're going to pass the ball. It is a true RPO. And Dillon Gabriel is now a senior, and he's a lot better at doing that than when he played for UCF. So all of you that have only watched him play at UCF, you need to set that aside and understand that we're playing the number 6 team in the country now.
And he is significantly better at doing it. I mean,
he can run the ball.
He's even more mobile, and he's showing.
Right. Yeah. So all that being said, he's still his most deadly weapon is his ability to be the Rainbow Warrior, right? Which is throw that rainbow pass. He's not throwing velocity. He's throwing high arcing bombs, right? To give his receiver time to adjust and get underneath it. That's why he's successful. A lot of these other guys that throw more shallow balls, it's harder for their receivers because they don't have as much time to adjust. It's like a punt, right? If you get a shallow punt, it's more likely to hit the ground, right?
Exactly.
So I'm going to start with you, and then I'm going to go to Josh, and then I'm going to go to Alan. Why don't you preview Oklahoma for us this week? What are you looking for? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, again.
Or what do we do?
So I think just, again, like last week I was just more so mad about the assessment. I think there's a formula to beat every team in the country. Now, some formulas allow you more wiggle room for error. Some don't. I think with our team, we don't have as much room for error. This is the number 6 team in the country. Let's be real. they're very good. They're talented. They're explosive. And it starts with the quarterback, to me, that offense. Dylan Gabriel is a very, very good football player. He throws a beautiful deep ball, as Roger stated. It's a rainbow. It's going to be in the air. And he drops it in the bucket for his receivers to perfectly catch it a lot of the time. Now he's a lot more mobile. I don't know if he's just got more comfortable. He slimmed down a little bit is what it looks like. He's looking a little bit more, physically in shape. He's 22, I think 23. He's growing into his body now. But he's the head of the snake to me. You have to get him off his platform. You have to get him flustered because he wants to have a clean pocket to set and make the throw. Now, can he make off-script throws? He can. Can he run a little bit more? Yeah, he can. But that's not what he wants to do. So I think you have to take away, like, Belichick and all the greats say, take away the team's fastball. Take away what they want to do the best. That's what you have to do. Now, defensively, they are a lot better than the Oklahoma teams defensively in the past. And I think that starts with, their head coach, Brent Venables. He was the DC of all the great Clemson teams in the past. So he's kind of changing the program in that sense. I don't think he really touches anything with the offense. I think he just, hey, Levy, you do what you got to do, man. I know you can put up points. Go do it. But defensively, he's trying to instill, a culture defensively. And they are getting better defensively. Now, for UCF, I think the game plan needs to be you have to run the football. One, because that's what we do best. I mean, we're a top 10 team in the country at running the football. Do what you do best. Now, a smart DC is going to be like, hey, stop the run, make them throw. But so far, that's one thing I can say about our offense is we can run the ball on anybody. That's what we've shown. So I think we have to do that, one, just because we're good at it. And two, we need to limit the times Dylan can get the ball. I think that's the formula to beating Oklahoma. I think if there's a way we do it, it's going to be instead of this high-octane game where we're, 45 to 48, Dylan gets the ball 15 possessions, we have to limit those possessions and let him get the ball, 6 or 7 times. And defensively, I think it's going to have to be a bend and don't break kind of style. You don't want to get beat deep, give up chunk plays, and you're going to have to tackle. I think that's, to me, that's what I would do.
Are our DBs up to that? Can we stack the box?
I mean, I think this plays into what our DBs have shown they can do best. For right now, our corners, Thornton and Brandon Adams, they're playing really good football. So to me, that's probably the good part about our defense so far this year, I would say, is that they're playing really – and I think Trayvon Morris-Brash is playing very well as well. I think you have to be like, hey, listen, y'all, this is how I would say if I was a coach and when I used to play. Do y'all want to play in the NFL? Yes, sir, coach. All right, well, you're going to have to be on the island all game because this is what they're going to do in the NFL. You guys want to play in the NFL? This is what you have to do. You're telling me how good you are. You can do this, do that. You're going to have to be out there by yourself and guard him all game because we're going to have to stop the run. We're going to have to dedicate a little bit more. Now, we'll give you a little bit of help, but you're not going to get full protection. That's what you're going to have to do because we have to stop the run. If we can't stop the run, we're not beating anybody. So I think now we're going to have to dedicate a little bit more hats, have the safeties a little bit more focused on the run game a little bit. Not solely focused, but, be a little bit more attentive than worrying about the corners. And I think you have to tell Thornton and Brandon Adams, hey, you guys want to play on Sundays? This is how you do it. You got to go out there and be men. You're going to be on that island by yourself. You're going to get a little bit of help, but not a lot. And I think, again, I mentioned offensively what we have to do. We have to limit the possessions and help out the defense by being able to run the football effectively. And you build from that. If you can run the ball, you can do everything else, and I think that's what we're going to have to do. So, yeah,
I think they pick on Thornton a lot more than Adams. I think that's going to be the game plan.
Yep.
All right, Josh.
So I think I agree.
I'm sorry, we've been hogging like the mic.
Yeah.
Like
I apologize.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Okay, so it's pretty simple. Pretty much do what SMU did and do better. But Trey's right. So SMU actually, when they played OU early in the year, they lost, but it was a tight game. Most of the game, they had more yards than Oklahoma, just by 1 or 2, but had a little bit more. And in Oklahoma, they rushed 40. They had 47 carries for 189 yards. It was really rush heavy. So I think we have to do the same thing. We need JRP to actually be a little bit of JRP of old. We need to keep the ball kind of Oleary-ish style. We need to
win the
control
time
possession.
You mentioned SMU. They won the time of possession. Now they lost, but that's how you beat them.
Yeah. It's the way Oleary beat Baylor, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's those type of things. Can we do it? That's a whole nother story. But we need to win time of possession. We can't turn over the ball. We need to be efficient in the run, which helps with obviously the time of possession. On defense, we got to tackle. Yeah. We need to fit the run. We need to do everything. And it's going to be
funny that you talked about run fits, because that's something that Gus stressed in his presser was our run fits were completely off.
So
I was telling you that from
we saw that, but we also had the benefit of seeing it from. I'll tell you this: whenever I am in game and I'm at the game, I watch the game, I get into the game, I get into the emotion of the game, I do all those things. Mm-hmm. However, if I want to dissect what we're doing, I watch the film. And every game, I always go back and watch the film from the TV perspective, because you can stop, you can focus, you can do whatever you need to do to be able to see exactly what went wrong.
Yep.
Yeah. So of course Trey is right? But I think the formula there is almost no mistakes or darn near close. And I hope the team doesn't play tight because of it, but it's pretty much virtually no mistakes. Run the ball like you can, win time of possession, finish, right? You have to finish drives. You can't be getting a bunch of field goals.
So your F word for this one is finish, not focus.
Focus too. But to Trey's point, there is a formula, but everything has to go right, I think, at this point. It's not like, this isn't Kent State, right? Again, nothing against Kent State, but this is not Kent State. And frankly, this isn't any team we've played this year. This is easily the best team left on our schedule. This is easily the best team we've probably played in maybe a couple of years, since maybe the Cincinnati team that went to the floor, the playoffs. I mean, it's a darn good team. So everything Trey said and a little bit more, and no mistakes, no turnovers, or at least equalize that time possession. Everything you can think of has to go right, I think.
Yeah.
All right. So, Alan.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much what everyone's been saying so far.
The fighting Gabriels. The fighting Sockboys.
Yeah, it's pretty much what everyone's been saying so far. I mean, I agree with all this. I mean, we kind of talked about it on the last podcast that, can we bring it back to Oleary ball and, do what we do best, which is run the ball down their throats. And I think a big part of this is making Dillon Gabriel uncomfortable. We saw him, how he got when he was uncomfortable when he played with us, and maybe he's matured, maybe he's developed, but he can air the ball out. Can we cut off the middle of the field and cut off those short passes that he wasn't as good as, and not let him, we know he's going to air it out, but if our secondary, plays pretty well, which they, we have a couple guys like you mentioned, Adams and Thornton, that have been playing pretty well. Maybe they can cut that off. And if we can cut off his best weapon, I think that will be huge for us. And it's like kind of Josh said, I mean, let's use the recipe that not only SMU used, but Cincinnati did it. I mean, they only lost by 2 touchdowns, and they were in that game a few weeks ago till the very end. And, they had a stat line that is something that I'd hope we'd see, but obviously with a win, which is they had more rushing yards by like over 50. They ran more plays than Oklahoma, and they won the time of possession battle by 5 minutes. I think if we can do all that, that'll be huge. The difference is that Cincinnati had 2 turnovers in the game, and they threw 2 interceptions, which gave obviously Dillon Gabriel 2 extra possessions to play with, and that helped them win the game. So for me, and we've lost the turnover battle now in 5 out of 6 games. So if we can not do that, win the time of possession, and do what we do best, which is just run the ball down their throat, I think there's a chance. There's it's basically kind of what Josh and what Trey said. There's a recipe here for success that doesn't mean we execute, because we've had a lot of problems with execution this year on all sides of the ball. But to me, I've seen what happens when Dylan Gabriel gets uncomfortable, and it's easier to say it now that he's not on our team. But I'd be interested to see what happens if they get him uncomfortable, because he's shown some mistakes when that happens. So that would be my keys to the game.
And even like you said, Alan, I think when you stick to that game plan, the thing with the Levy offense, the Art Briles offense, they want to score fast. They're not trying to really drive. They want to put pressure on you by scoring so fast that you make them, like, your offense is like, oh, we got to match all their points. That's what they want. They want it to be a track meet. When you run the air out of the ball, take your time, they get like little kids, and they're like, give me the ball back. Like, I need the ball. Like, we need to score. So they start getting really aggressive passing, and they become one-dimensional in that. That's when you see what 99% of that tree, when they start feeling the pressure that they're not getting the ball fast enough, they start becoming more one-dimensional, which that helps the defense in a sense. So, yeah, I think, like you said, I think that's why you have to run the ball down the throat, because not only does it help the offense, and we're good at it, it helps the defense because it puts pressure on them.
Yeah.
You got your Roger?
Roger, you're on mute, I think.
Yep. So, Alan, last week we were talking about recipes, right? So you guys laughed at me and scoffed at me when I said, hey, we have a way to win at 5 games, right? And I'm going to say that again. This team has a path to win 5 games. Now, you guys have been talking about the different things that we talked about, as to how we do that. So let's focus on Oklahoma. Who has more yards per game?
We do.
We 100% do. So the thing we've been talking about is offense versus defense, and how do we nullify the defense, right? I agree with everybody. I think, we were talking last week based on who we play. Do we play ball control or not? I think we actually have an advantage this week over the past 2 opponents. And here's the reason why I say that. One, the past 2 opponents play ball control. Mm-hmm. Okay. This Oklahoma team does not. Okay. Dylan Gabriel versus Timmy McClain. Dylan Gabriel, 141 of 195. Timmy McClain, 62 of 97. So 97, they've had 100. Dylan Gabriel's had 100 more possessions to play with. Now, granted, I know that, JRP up front played through Boise. They are going to want to go speed, which is one of our advantages on offense. But if we can ball control, which we have an advantage on, which is rushing, okay, and here's some rushing stats for you. For us, 246.3 per game versus 164.8. They are potent. They have a good running attack, but they're going to want to pass the ball. If I say we stack the box, we run it down their throat, limit their possessions, we have a realistic path to win this game. That being said, and I feel like we actually match up better, because this isn't body on body, I'm going to out physical you. This is finesse. That's what this game is. If we execute well consistently, we will be okay. Now, the difference, yards allowed. Let's talk about that. UCF 387 versus 353. That's 30 yards difference. What can Dylan Gabriel do with 30 yards if we don't turn over the ball? So to me, this game comes down to, can we ball control? Can we stack the box and make Dylan Gabriel uncomfortable? And can we Revis Island them, for lack of a better term, as far as our cornerbacks are concerned? I think we can do those things. We need a gap. we need to A-gap them. That means that we can more easily A-gap them if we have JRP back, because they won't know by the motion in the backfield where it's going. The other part that comes back to this, do we get McDonald back this game? That wasn't something that was mentioned. We did hear that there will be more running backs. He is our Bowser.
Yep.
Okay. RJ Harvey, 89 carries, 511 yards, 6 TDs. Walker, for them, their lead running back, 53 carries, 239 yards, 4 TDs. RJ Harvey will outgain Walker. Okay. Because their per attempt average is much higher for UCF. So stack the box, make Dylan uncomfortable. Offensively, play ball control, limit the number of possessions, right? Get 3 and outs. They're going to be playing much lower percentage balls. They're going to be throwing the ball at not where our weakness has been all season, has been the middle of the field, because our linebackers haven't been able to cover in a zone. Their strength and the way that they play ball is they play that Levy offense, which we should be very familiar in, which is spread the
outside the numbers.
Yep, spread outside the numbers, which means that's not going to be the middle of the field for the game plan. They're either going to go 40, 50, 60 yards, or they're going to run the ball. If we stack the box, get after the quarterback, allow our DBs to do what they do, that's already a lower percentage pass than what we've seen. We win this game. So I feel like we do actually have a good shot, and we match up better against this team than we did the previous teams, because the previous teams are going to out-physical you, and that's a place where we're still trying to catch up. So that's what I'm going to say about Oklahoma, and I know you all think I'm crazy for saying that. However, we can win this ball game if, to Alan's point, we win the time of possession and we don't have stupid turnovers. The defense for Oklahoma is going to be the difference in this game, in my opinion. So that's what I'm going to say. So apparently Josh thinks that the okay sounds like South Park. So
I think that's what I think. Okay.
Okay. So I think we're going to keep that up. All right. What do we want to say anything else? Because in between the two podcasts, we've covered Oklahoma for longer than an hour.
I mean, again, I don't want to harp on it. I think, like Alan said, I think specifically this season, every team in the country is beatable. I think related to Oklahoma versus UCF, there is a formula to beat Oklahoma. The percentage of it realistically coming true, very unlikely, because of how much has to go right for us to do it. But it's possible that everything goes right for us.
Does this defense have it in them to do it?
That's going to be the question. Did they need this week to kind of go back, look at the things that they weren't doing, clean up some stuff? Like you mentioned, Gus said the run fits were off. Could they clean that up? The tackling I know was off. Did they clean that up? If they can do that, and then offense kind of keep doing what they're doing, we might have a 3. I don't know what the betting odds are, but whatever
betting odds, let's go beyond the betting odds. I feel good about this game because ESPN has us at has Oklahoma at 96.4% of winning in this game, and it's 17 points. I think so
we have a 3.6% chance of winning, and within that percent chance of winning, we have to do all the things we said right. I don't really think there's another.
But Trey, here's the funny thing about it: every other game we've been favored in by ESPN, so I will take the fact that we're not favored in this game because I think that's actually a good thing. Now, realistically speaking, look, The betting odds are what they are because of a lot of reasons, right? The previous games, we were 3 points dogs or 3-point, maybe a 5-point dog or whatever. Basically, it's a toss-up according to the betting odds.
Yeah.
I actually feel like it is to our advantage that people feel that we're going to get boat raced.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think this is how we used to feed off of, just going back when we played. This is the kind of energy we would feed off of, just always the underdog. That's not really been the case, as of late with UCF, just because, again, we're a better program than what we were years ago.
And we've underperformed.
Yeah, we have. I agree. But I think this is the kind of stuff that, to me, this is going to be a season-changing moment, in my opinion. Not necessarily if we win or lose, but we have a week to get healthy. We have a week to kind of just step back, take a seat back. Listen, we broke 500 the first 6 games. That's not what we wanted, but that's the reality of it. What are we going to do from here? I think what happens this game, we'll kind of know what our team is about, because
we've been saying that for weeks, though.
We don't have to win.
We've been saying that for weeks. It's not necessarily what I want to see out of this team. Is I don't care. Well, I care. I want them to win,
of course.
But I want to see how they respond in game. Do they lay down when they get down, or do they stand up and punch them in the mouth?
But because you can build on that.
Yep.
If guys are laying down, quitting, it doesn't matter how much they're front runners in a sense. It doesn't matter how good you are. The second anything goes wrong, you're tucking your tail and running away. You can't build on that because you're just front running. If guys are trying to fight, that's all we really want to see. At least for me as a fan. But, I remember
in this game.
Yeah, I remember at the first part of the year when we were talking about our predictions. The former player in me, I'm like, we should win every freaking game. I don't care who we're playing. But, as the fan that, we all made our predictions, we didn't really care about wins or losses. We wanted to be competitive every game. And I think that competitiveness only comes if you don't quit. Like, if you don't lay down when things go bad. If you don't, like, how you respond to it. So I think this is the perfect time because we've seen both sides. We saw, when we're winning, we can pour it on teams. Especially early in the year we saw that. Granted, the team.
Well, even when we're losing, we can pour it on teams and just give it away in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. So I think we saw some high points and some very low points the first 6 games. Now I want to see, can we be consistent and stay more towards the high side? I think this game will tell us, because this isn't a game that you should have to get up for. I can promise you that. These guys should be fired up to play. They're going to be playing at Oklahoma, a legendary place to play. They're playing. I don't know how many guys knew Dylan Gabriel had played with them, but they know the history behind there. Like, this is a game you should get up for. They shouldn't have to get you pumped up to play this, man. Like, so to me, there shouldn't be a fight.
I think Sock Boy already has this marked as a dub, and I think if we get in his head and get him behind a little bit, I think that works in our favor. All right, Alan, it is time for your Alan's oxymoronic stats of the week.
All right, so
we're almost 2 hours in. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Got a few stats regarding our opponent, Oklahoma. So found this kind of interesting that UCF and Oklahoma are like essentially opposites in the stat column. So Oklahoma is currently a top 30 rushing defense. And as we know, UCF is a bottom 11 in rushing defense. UCF is number 27 in defensive passing yards per game, and Oklahoma is in the bottom 30 in passing defense. So very kind of opposite teams. And then same thing on offense. UCF is a top 5 rushing offense, and Oklahoma is not even in the top 50 for rushing offense. But for passing, they obviously are top, 3 or 4 in the country, and UCF is, hovering around the 30s. So pretty opposite. Right now, also an interesting stat, there is currently 8 teams in the country that are averaging 500 plus yards per game, with UCF being one of those teams, Oklahoma being one of those teams. Only Oklahoma and Washington don't rank in the top, at least the top 50 for both rushing and passing. So every other team that averages 500 yards a game is in the top 50 for both rushing and passing, but Oklahoma and Washington are the lone two exceptions. And then our favorite sock boy found some interesting stats on him. His completion percentage, which is currently just around 72.5%, is the highest through 6 games for an Oklahoma QB since Jalen Hurts in his lone year at Oklahoma back in 2019. And then DG also has the most passing yards through a season and a half since Baker Mayfield played for the Sooners. So he
what's his yards per attempt?
His yards per attempt is 9.6, I believe.
Do you know what UCF
9.6
is?
exactly.
Do you know what UCF is?
Like 10 something, I want to say 10.4.
Exactly.
10.5.
That's my point. So again, 72% of the passes only averaging 9 yards. I mean, we were 6 or 7 with last year with JRP and with Mikey Keene, right? But again, this team has the talent to win this game.
We gotta play right. We gotta play.
Gotta execute.
Yep.
Those
All right.
More oxymoronic stat.
All right. Awesome. Hey, that was great, actually. And it was kind of oxymoronic because, we are the opposites. So that played perfectly this week. So Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week, who he's trying to get me to change it to some sort of musical theme, but
no, that's musical theme is just for the keys, and I have some musical keys. Get it?
Oh, yeah,
this week too.
The keys. All right, I finally got that. It took me this long, eight of these to figure that out. All right, go ahead, Josh.
I just started the musical keys with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, which is a thing now. So, fun fact:
Speaking of which, Travis Kelce's mom was filming at UCF.
When?
Today. Like
really?
they just posted it. So the last week she was doing a Kind Bar commercial basically at the stadium. She is local to Orlando, by the way. That's why
Donna Kelce is?
Yes, she is.
I didn't know that. That's cool. Well, there we go. We just need Taylor to show up in the game, and then everyone will be a fan again.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so back to the fun facts. In back-to-back games, we're going to actually play against a former UCF defensive coach. So, similar question as the same one we had 2 weeks ago with similar hints. What former UCF defensive coordinator is a current defensive coordinator at Oklahoma?
Alan, you're at the top of the screen.
Former UCF defensive coordinator is the current defensive coordinator at Oklahoma.
Correct.
Come on, you know this.
When was he the DC at UCF?
Come on, you know that. No, don't give him that. No, don't give him that. Trey should 100% know this.
Trey should know this for a couple of reasons.
It's not Shannon, obviously. Who is it? Is it?
Was he before?
What's his name? Is that Boise, right?
So he was. I'll give you a couple hints. He was before Trey's time at UCF, and he worked with George Oleary both at Georgia Tech and at UCF.
Was it Summers? Is that who we mentioned today? Or no?
We haven't mentioned him on this podcast today,
or
I think ever.
You know what? I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry. I cannot remember.
No worries. And he's on. Okay. His.
Wait.
Do we need another hint? Hold on.
Yeah, give me one more hint. I think I'm gonna guess.
Okay. I will give you a Trey specific hint. He's originally from Lawrenceville, Georgia.
Yeah, Coach Roof. I know it is.
Yep, Ted Roof.
Yeah.
Yep.
He actually, when he went to Georgia, another off topic, when he went to Georgia Tech, because he played at Georgia Tech, my aunt was a basketball coach. She played at basketball.
Okay.
Oh, there's our freeze. There's our freeze. Come on. Can we get it?
There we go.
Oh, I got it. Oh,
did I get it?
I got it.
I got it.
Yeah. So
I was waiting the whole show.
I was good all show, man. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, so Coach Roof played with my aunt. Her name's Ida Neal Smith now. And she's a Hall of Famer there. So another backstory, Coach Roof, when he was at Georgia Tech, he actually was one of the recruiting me. And he was like, "Are you related to her?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's my aunt." He's like, "Oh my gosh!" So yeah, just a crazy story. Coach Roof.
He went to Central
Gwinnett
High School.
Yeah.
So not only we all know Dylan Gabriel is at Oklahoma, obviously, but he's there because of Jeff Lebby, who is the offensive coordinator. So other than Brett Venables, the entire coordinating staff are all former UCF coaches,
assistant coaches.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Assistant coaches. Yeah. It's UCF light. No, I'm kidding.
It is UCF light. I mean, they even have our quarterback.
I mean, it's all good. But yeah, I thought that was kind of, and even deeper to the Gwinnett thing. I'm like, I know where that is. So yeah, fun fact, sometimes funny, but probably not really ever funny. Well, actually, might have been funny. I don't know, but I'm done. And see.
Right, keep talking.
Oh, I got to vamp now. Is this what I'm doing?
No. I'm trying to bring up this image. I've sent it to myself.
Oh,
and I'm
okay.
I'm going to put it up on the screen. So you need to keep talking.
So it's cool. I'll give you. We could try to do one more thing, because my musical keys are always related to something to do with the team or the state. Last week it was Kansas for Kansas, and all of you are like, I don't know Kansas songs, and you knew 2 out of the 3. What is your thought on who is going to be my musical key guest this week? Oklahoma-based band.
You're gonna have to give me hints. I don't know.
I don't know any. Yeah.
It is a trio. It is a all-male trio.
They're from Oklahoma.
Josh. It is a family all-male trio. They are all brothers.
The Jonas Brothers.
No, come on. I'm better than that. I'm teasing enough, but I can only vamp so much. Let's see. The problem is, if I give you the song you all know, you'll all know it. Their first hits. Okay, album title, because this is that one of their more popular album titles is called Middle of Nowhere, which could be related to the state battle.
What genre of music are
they? They're pop-ish. Nope. Pop-ish rock.
Pop-ish rock. And they're from Oklahoma. Wow.
Okay, I'm gonna save the viewers from whatever this is.
There we go.
You'll know it. Well, see, you say the viewers. I'm vamping because you're the one trying to figure out all this technology stuff.
It's not the technology stuff. It's just like trying to do this on the fly is the problem. So I'm going to present here to the viewers.
Will you?
Actually, I'm going to share my screen because I haven't had time.
That's dangerous.
It is, actually. Let's see here.
Minimize all your screens.
Oh, what's going on? Why is it not showing Alan? Oh, there he is. There he is. Look at that. I got Trey. All right, guys. Another reason to he's putting it down. I don't know. He's doing like a rap lyric there. What's going on?
That's going to be the meme if UCF wins. He's going to be like, see, I told you so.
Oh, that's total. Okay, guys, I promise you next week, if we win, I'm totally putting that as our. Normally, you put that at your screen saver for the video or whatever, the thumbnail for the video. That's going on as the thumbnail. I'll be able to edit it, so we won't have to move it down.
All we need to do is win the time of possession battle.
That's it.
That's it.
And don't turn the ball over.
All right. Josh, you are off the hot seat now. I'm going to put myself back on because it's time for this week's listener love. And we actually got a lot of listener love this week. This is our opportunity to say thank you to everyone who's interacting, giving us tips, subscribing, giving us comments, all of those fun things. So this week, we're going to start with a banger from Jeremy, UCF Jeremy. He said, Roger, the hair is fabulous, ... But the green screen is denying us the full glory. I 100% agree. The hair is fabulous, and I'm working on the green screen. So that more to come on that. Lazy Sunday said, Trey made some great points regarding D. I'm not going to leave it at that because that could be taken the wrong way. We need to play complementary football. Let's keep the D off the field. Night Patrol says, great listen and watch. Thank you, Night Patrol. We appreciate that. And Nightline says, good points about the new challenges of trying to build a QB room with depth now that free agency and an NIL is the new normal. So thank you, everyone, for interacting with us. We love you. This is the reason we do this. We really, really do this for you. Thank you to all those that have picked up as listeners recently. We do see you. We appreciate you, and as subscribers. And hopefully we're putting together something that you actually want to watch/listen to while you're running. All right. Other than that, let's go ahead and move on. We're getting up to the 2-hour limit, and people are going to miss out on all this goodness. So next up, we have Big 12 Super Recap by Alan. I think I'm going to change that. Let's try to change it while we were, because it carries over.
I like Super Recap.
Super Recap. I think that's what we're going to keep it that way. All right, Alan. It went from super depressing recap to super recap this week. What do you got for us this week?
Well, no depressing this week because UCF didn't play and they went 1-0 in the bye week. But
isn't it still depressing because all the teams that we won against lost?
It is a little bit depressing. So yeah. So 4 teams run by, including UCF, Texas, Oklahoma, and then Baylor. Houston became the first of the new Big 12 teams to get a win over a legacy Big 12 team when they beat West Virginia on a Hail Mary on the last couple seconds there. So they won that one 41-39. Iowa State beat Cincinnati 30-10. Oklahoma State, who was penciled in as a win for us, happened to knock off number 3 ranked Kansas, who we just got obliterated by 39-32. So that doesn't bode well for our chances against OSU.
Which that was a crazy game too.
That was a crazy game.
Big 12 football is fun to watch, folks.
Yeah.
I was just going to say Big 12 football is cannibalizing itself, but it is fun to watch.
Yeah.
TCU rocked BYU 44-11, and then Kansas State got back in the win column with a 38-21 win over Texas Tech, meaning that Oklahoma is the lone remaining undefeated team in the conference, both in conference play and in their overall record. And then the rest of the Big 12 is a mix of 2-1, 2-2, 1-2, and 0-3 in the conference. So it's really eating each other alive right now.
All right. So that we don't have any PFF stats this week. We are all 100s because we beat the bye. So we're going to move right into pick your poison score prediction for this week. So Alan, pick your poison. We know your last game, you had a little bit of a disappointing pick there. It was like 72-0, and that just didn't happen.
72-3.
72-3. That's right. So, what's your pick for this week against Oklahoma?
Yeah, so my poison this week would just be letting Dylan Gabriel have his way with us, and essentially just like running up the score and having zero resistance to our defense and just being able to do kind of whatever he wants and really stick it to us and kind of run up the score. But as far as score prediction, I'm going to go 39-21 Oklahoma.
Okay, that's good. All right, let's go ahead and move on to actually, Josh always goes last. So Trey, what about you? for this. And that last score prediction, Josh, I want you to take that time down because we are definitely making a short out of that. So, all
right,
out of Alan's score prediction, go ahead, Trey.
Like I always say, I'm never betting against the guys. Even though we have a 3.6% chance to win according to ESPN, I'm going to bet as if we execute this 3%. So I think the poison would be we just look exactly how we've looked. Nothing really happened on the bye week. It's a whole bunch of coach speak. Nobody really was doing anything. I think that's the worst thing that can happen. And we just look no different than we did the last 3 games. My score prediction will be, I'm going to say UCF 23, Oklahoma 21. I think that's it's got to, because if you look at the Cincy game and then the SMU game, I think going into the fourth quarter, Oklahoma only had 14 points. So I think that's what it's going to have to be. I think you're going to have to control the ball, limit their possessions, and it's going to be low scoring if you want to win. If we start creeping up to 35 with Oklahoma, I don't think we can match them. So I'm going to say 24-20 UCF.
All right.
20?
Or
23-21, you said originally?
23-21, sorry.
All right. So Trey's trying to pull the fast change there on us. I don't know what happened there.
23-21.
Josh, what do you think? What's your poison? What's your prediction?
Okay. Poison, if this team loses their fight early in the game, I think that's really going to be the poison. If Trey's right, they're going to be up. The fans that are be at the stadium are up. I will be one of those fans. Everyone is going to be high for the first game, for the first quarter on that. Like, we can do it. We're in the game. We're in this stadium. And if UCF goes down 21-0 in the first quarter, there's going to be a problem. And I don't think that's going to particularly happen. But I do think that if the team itself has all this energy, all this adrenaline, and just has a huge letdown early, if they continue that, that'll be the poison. Now,
all right, what's your prediction?
I got a head and a heart prediction, but do you want me to do musical keys or no?
I think because we're at 2:12, if you can do it really quick,
I
like
could do
45 seconds.
I can, because I teased the Oklahoma band.
I have no idea who it is.
The band is Hanson, and we're going to have 3
Didn't somebody say Hanson?
I don't think I heard Hanson. No,
I don't even know who Hanson is.
I was humming it the other time.
There's a reason you didn't know that it was Hanson.
Yeah.
Because long hair guys with guitar, pop band, terrible music. All right, moving on.
So here are the keys I have this time around, meaning the O-line and the running back play has to work this time around. They have to be complementary. Running plays have to happen. Where's the love? That tackling has to be better. They have to stop making mistakes. And I was going to go into whole lyrics and all that, but you guys took an hour and a half. And of course,
sorry.
Oh my gosh, Josh just said the show's all about him and his keys segment, and we just completely blew it out of the water.
Time, so you're trying to tighten up.
And it was an hour and 15. Okay, so let's be realistic. I left 45 minutes for the rest of the show.
So last thing is the bop, and one of the lines there is, "Can you tell me if you still care? Can you tell me who will still care?" And that's really what I think is going to be happening with this team. If they still care, we have a shot. So my heart tells me we squeak out a 4-point win. No way either team is going to score 20. No, that's up. My heart tells me 41-38, but my head tells me 52-31 Oklahoma. So you pick one, my heart or my head. I don't see it. I want it, but I don't see it.
We're going 52-31 Oklahoma.
All right. So in a couple of weeks, Alan, you get your revenge on me because unfortunately I do have to announce that in a couple of weeks I will not be part of the show. So somebody else is going to have to run this. I'm going to be able to enjoy listening to the banter and the jokes and the inside jokes from afar. However, for this game, as you guys know, I'm not the eternal optimist, but I'm never going to pick against UCF. We are not a gambling show. So we aren't going to tell you how to lose money.
Not yet.
If you want gambling advice, that's a whole different ballgame.
Especially when it comes to me, just like throw that out the window, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, keys to the game, how to win, get after Dylan Gabriel, make him uncomfortable. Don't let him, tuck the ball and run. 2, make sure that we are stacking the box. I don't care if they get a couple of big plays, stack the box. 3, run the ball effectively. I think we can do all 3 of those things. It's more of a Trey style defense to me. They're going to get their plays. They're going to get their points. Can we limit the amount of plays that they can have to get those points? And can we execute football without turning the ball over? Both of the 2 games that we've played in the Big 12, both of those have come down to us just having inopportune turnovers that put us behind the 8 ball. So for me, my poison this week is JRP comes out and he's still not ready, or he's just not played in so long that he's rusty, that his instincts are completely off and we get behind in the second quarter by a big margin. So I'm going to say UCF wins this game 38-32. I think we can score, and I think we can run it down their throats, and I think we can get turnovers. We've gotten turnovers all season. We just haven't had enough to make for the turnovers that we've made. So we play sound football, 38-32, UCF. That's what I'm going with. I don't care. I'm drinking more Citronauts. Let that course through my veins. All right. Last but not least, we're going to give you the UCF Athletic Sports update with Josh, and Alan gave us the update information, so I'm not holding any of that against Josh. So go ahead.
All right. So it's a really quick updates because, of course, Trey and Roger, who goes away, took over most of the podcast, as they should, because Trey has probably forgotten more knowledge about football and UCF experiences than some of us know, using an old Olearyism. So the UCF men's soccer team is still number 2 in the nation. They dominated Old Dominion 2-1, and Coastal Carolina is up next. UCF women's soccer team and their losing streak. They beat tied with Texas Tech 1-1. Although that was, we thought we had a shot on that one, and we beat Cincy up in Cincinnati 1-0. And they actually Cincinnati got down to 10 ladies on the field at the end of that game, so they had no shot. They thought they had a shot of coming back, but didn't happen. BYU is the next game up. And in women's volleyball, we are finally ranked. Now 24th in the nation. We are 16-2 overall, saying we like I am playing for the team. We are 7-0 in the Big 12. And we beat West Virginia University 3-0 and Kansas State University 3-2. Just so you know, the harder part of the schedule is now coming up, where we're facing the Big 12 teams that are quite good. Not that we've been not beating up on nobody, but we've been doing really good and beating the people we should. Baylor's up next, and we're going to see how our women's volleyball team goes from there. Back to you, Roger, who is not there. Okay, so it means we get to end this ourselves. That's wonderful. I love this.
Yep.
That Citronaut beer must have been so good it drank them off the stream. That's wonderful. All right, so since we did everything else on Roger, can we even end this without Roger in the room?
I don't know if we can.
Oh, all right, so this is what we're going to do. Someone in here is going to go to a cell phone, also known as a smartphone for some of you younger generation people. And
well, I don't think he's actually been on the stream anymore, so I think we just have to kind of just end it gracefully here. We all just say charge on and
Okay.
I don't hear.
I know. But what happens if we leave the studio? It still records, and it's just dead air the entire time.
Well, you can cut it off at the end, right? I mean,
yeah, we can.
He's not doing anything in post. What are you talking about? Okay, so just
well, I'm not staying on here until it gets back on.
That's funny. Internet died. Finish the show. We'll have to edit. Okay, Roger. So that's it for us, I guess. Roger has reliable internet, and
y'all always clowning me. Look who lasted.
guess who's never dying off the internet stream?
Exactly.
Well, hey, I'm front and center, so I'll end this off. Thank you so much for listening to the Night of Ones podcast, episode 8. We will hope to see you, and with hopefully a 4-3 team, even though me and Alan picked against our guys. And as always, go Knights.
Charge on, baby.
Charge on.
Like, subscribe, and grind, everyone. I got to use Roger's all of his things. Now I have control.